Alright, so here's a line of thinking that I was just having. I'm not sure if it'll go anywhere, but it seems somewhat interesting. Thinking about language and thinking and thought, and the notion that the root of all suffering is thought. That thought is actually the root of suffering because it is the mind that has constructed all of this stuff which the the person allows to cause them suffering. That doesn't seem like the right way to put that. the the point is that all of the suffering that the suffering comes from conflict, and that the conflict comes from the thought that I am different than you, that there is something different between this and that. It's this versus that. It's Democrat versus Republican, Jew versus Israeli. Wait a second. Israeli versus Palestinian. Sorry. Um, just the world is in conflict, and that is what creates suffering. Is the conflict. My conflict between my ex and I, which up until recently I thought was like important. That some part of that conflict somehow was important to hold on to. The anger or the feelings of resentment that were brought about by that conflict, that they were somehow important to hold on to. They're not only not important to hold on to, they've been self-generated. They've been put there by myself for no goddamn reason other than to suffer. So anyway, it's the thinking that has constructed all of this. I don't know what the word for it is. All of this conflict, and that thought goes back millions of years. If man has been around millions of years, then man has been thinking for millions of years. And so this conflict that men have come up with, for whatever reason that we've done it, we have done it. Conflict does not exist psychologically in animals or in trees or anything else, only in those of us who think. So for some reason we've used our thinking to create conflict, to set ourselves up different, to set ourselves up as something different than the next person. I mean, that's all it is. If you look at it, that's all it is. That's all it is. That's all. Everything is this little conflict. Either that or it's a big conflict. The whole world is in conflict. But anyway, the point is, so you've been thinking for all of these millions of years. Thinking, thinking, thinking. So the question is, which came first, thinking or language? Well, obviously thinking came first, and then the thinker had to come up with language in order to describe or explain what he was thinking. So thinking came first, then language. Okay, so then, personally, I only speak English. I only speak the English language, 26 letters. And I think, as I sit here with this recorder on, that I basically am able to regurgitate in English language everything that I'm thinking. Okay, see, and now you wouldn't know that from this recording, but I am somewhat articulate. I believe I have at least a decently wide English language to access and use, but it's only 26 letters that make it all up. Okay, and to me, I believe, as I sit here, and I'll say that I believe I can recite everything that I'm thinking using English, that I can say it all. Okay, but now here's the question. How's that fucking possible? How in the hell would it be possible that I can recite with 26 letters, okay, that basically have been around, I don't know, however long English has been around, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, but it ain't that long. It really isn't that long, is it? Couldn't be that long. But anyway, how in the world is it that I could express every thought that I have with English when I've been thinking for millions of years? How in the hell is that possible? Okay, here, you want to know the answer? Here's the answer. This is why some questions are such fantastic questions to ask. The answer is, it is not possible. Not possible. It is impossible. So the fact that I think that I can recite everything that I think with my language is impossible. Therefore, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. Okay, so what does that mean? That means a couple of things. Number one, it means that I have trained my mind, which is responsible for thought, to think in English. That's number one. That's got to be number one, right? That has to be number one. I have trained my mind to think in English. Well, okay, that would lead to that basically I have imprisoned my mind. I have put my mind in a box and told it, here are the parameters within which you can think. 26 letters. You know, okay, so whether I have an expansive knowledge of the English language, however many words I know, who knows? Who knows how many words a person knows? Guess what? It ain't that many. It may be a lot, but it really ain't that many. So I've imprisoned my mind. I have told my mind, and I've conditioned it this way however long people have been speaking English, however long that goes back, you know. So, and I don't even have a perception that there is more to my mind than what I have conditioned it for. I don't even perceive that. I do not. And that's got to be the largest part of my mind, and I don't even perceive it. Man, that's crazy. That is craziness. That is craziness. And that does go to my, you know, theory about the reason that we don't use any more of our mind than we do is because we've just conditioned our mind to run our programmed lives, which although we think is complex, it's extremely simple and mundane, and that is all it is a program. So therefore it takes very little energy to run it, very little intelligence. So, but when you think about it regarding the language and the fact that you have actually asked your mind to be imprisoned, you've done it. You've done it. Then you have all these problems that you can't solve and figure out, and you're upset, and you don't even realize that you have closed off your entire mind. Now, did you do it just so you could speak English? No, that would seem weird. But you did train your mind in a certain way. Now, I don't care if you speak 50 damn languages, okay? If you speak 50 languages, you're still doing it. You've still trained your mind to be a certain way that you, the non-spiritual you, the worldly you, is telling your mind, which is spiritual and limitless. The limited part of you has controlled the limitless part of you into being limited. You know, that goes towards the talk about the vessel, the finite vessel being filled with an infinite soul, energy, whatever you might want to call it. The body being filled with the soul, life, energy, whatever. So I mean, the awareness that there's so much of your mind there that you don't even access because you basically told your brain it needs to operate in English so that you can understand it. That way, therefore, when you see something you don't understand, you criticize it and you're against it because you don't understand it. Because you have done that to yourself. And then you act as if the world is limited. You've limited your mind, and then you look outside of yourself and you act as if the world itself is limited. It's projection, but it's the kind of projection that imprisons the projector. So anyway, that's it. That's the line of thinking, which was, wow, you've asked your mind to speak in English so that you can understand it, so that then you might be able to recite that to someone else. When the fact is, that's only the tip of the iceberg. You can't tell somebody what you're actually thinking. First of all, because you don't know, because you don't even know that you're thinking anything beyond the English part. You don't know. I don't know what that boundless part is. So therefore, I know that I feel limited. I know that's one thing, and I know that is what causes conflict, is that people feel limited and that they must attack someone else in order to feel complete. It's a psychosis that the entire world has been involved in, I guess, for eons. And they're not only addicted to it, they don't know that it's happening. That's why the addicts say the first thing you got to do is admit that you have a problem, because if you don't even admit, now they're the ones judging that you've got a problem, that's a whole nother thing, but if you don't admit, i.e. basically say, hey, I'm doing it, that's admitting it. Well, whatever, that sounds a little weak, but so the awareness that you have limited your brain might make it possible to access that larger part of your brain. That's all I'm saying. So as we sit here now, just the acceptance and awareness that we have limited it is where we're going to end. All right. Bye-bye.